I spent my whole life trying to earn my mother's love. Then one moment shattered everything. I walked away without yelling, just silence. And she didn't even notice. When I was a kid, I thought if I was just good enough, she would see me. Not just look at me, but really see me. Like, hey, that is my son. I am proud of him. So I tried. Hard. Every report card, every chore, every quiet moment when I swallowed my own feelings just to keep the peace, it was all part of this silent campaign to earn her love. I remember in second grade, I got a perfect score on some big math test. I was not even a math kid. I stayed up late for a week straight just practicing on scratch paper, hiding under the covers with a flashlight because I did not want to bother anyone. When I showed her the test, she nodded once and said, "Okay, but do not get lazy now." That was it. No hug. No smile. Just a warning not to let it slip. At the time, I thought, maybe next time. So I kept trying. I became the kind of kid teachers loved. Polite, quiet, helpful. I would clean up the classroom even if I had nothing to do with the mess. I would keep my mouth shut when my older sister, Mindy, threw fits at home. She was wild. The kind who could break a lamp and somehow have mom hugging her 5 minutes later, saying, she just has a sensitive soul. Me? I kept the house clean. Got straight A's. Took care of the dog. I even taught myself how to fix the sink when it started leaking one summer because I knew mom could not afford a plumber. She never said thanks. Just make sure it does not flood. When I turned 14, I picked up a part-time job at a corner gas station. Not because I needed to, but because she did. She was always short on bills, and even though she never asked, I started slipping 20s into her purse every Friday. She never brought it up. Not once. I figured maybe she did not know where it came from. So I left a note one week. Just a tiny one. I love you. Hope this helps. She never said a word about it. I was still telling myself it was timing. That she was busy. That her way of showing love was just different. I held on to that for years. And let me tell you, when you are a kid, you will twist yourself into all kinds of knots just to believe that your mom loves you the way you need her to. But something always felt off. Like the more I gave, the more I disappeared. I used to think love was about what you could prove, what you could do. Be quiet. Be useful. Be helpful. Be invisible, if needed. What I did not realize, at least not back then, was that in our house, love had terms. And I was about to find out just how strict those terms really were. By the time I was 17, I had learned how to read my mother like a storm warning. The tilt of her mouth, the way she stirred her coffee, how fast she walked from the living room to the kitchen, it all said something. I knew when she was in a good mood. I knew when to disappear. I even knew when to take the blame for something I did not do, just to keep the house from going cold and quiet. There were these unspoken rules, you know? Be helpful, but not in the way that draws attention. Stay out of trouble, but do not be smug about it. Do not need anything. Do not talk back. And above all, never, ever make her look bad in front of other people. That last one was gospel. I still remember one Sunday morning, she invited some ladies from her church over. She wanted everything spotless, like we were some kind of catalog family. I spent hours cleaning. Scrubbed the baseboards, vacuumed twice, even ironed the throw pillows, which sounds insane now, but back then it made sense. When the women came in, all smiling and talking about their kids, she bragged about my sister. Mindy had just gotten her first job at the mall, barely lasted 3 weeks, and mom acted like she had been promoted to CEO. She went on about how independent Mindy was, how proud she was of her drive. I sat there thinking, did I not work 30 hours this week while keeping up straight A's? But I kept smiling, because that was the rule. Then one of the women looked at me and said, "And what about you? You must be the good one." My mother laughed. "Oh, him? He is no trouble at all. Practically invisible." I laughed with them, even though it felt like she had reached inside my chest and turned something off. That phrase stuck with me. Practically invisible. It was like that moment showed me the blueprint, how she wanted me to exist. Quiet, useful, unseen. Like a background appliance that just keeps running as long as you do not ask too much of it. I tried to tell myself it was fine. I was not like Mindy anyway. I did not need attention. I did not need praise. But God, sometimes I just wanted to be noticed. There was a moment that summer when I do not think I will ever forget. I was coming home from a late shift at the gas station. The house was dark. I walked in real quiet, not wanting to wake anyone. Then I heard her in the kitchen, talking on the phone. I stood near the hallway, out of sight. She was laughing softly, telling someone, maybe an aunt or a coworker, about how hard things had been. She said, honestly, if it was not for Mindy, I do not know what I would do. She keeps me going. I stood there in the dark, holding a bag of groceries I bought with my own paycheck to help fill the fridge, listening to that sentence like it was a knife being twisted real slow. She did not mention me. Not once. That was the night I started to wonder if all the effort, all the trying, had ever mattered at all. But still, I kept showing up. Because maybe, I thought, the next thing I did would be enough. What I did not know yet was that it never would be. And soon, I would stop trying to be her hero because someone else already had that title. You ever meet someone who could fail upward their whole life and still get treated like royalty? That was my sister, Mindy. 2 years younger than me, but it always felt like I was the afterthought and she was the main act. She could throw tantrums, skip school, get caught sneaking out, and somehow it always circled back to her being misunderstood or sensitive. Meanwhile, if I forgot to take the trash out on a Tuesday, I got a full lecture about being lazy and ungrateful. It was not just Mom who fed into it. The whole world seemed to bend around Mindy. Teachers, neighbors, our cousins, they all bought into whatever charm she was selling that day. And Mom? She acted like Mindy was this fragile piece of art that needed constant praise just to stay intact. When Mindy wrecked her car freshman year, after taking it without permission, Mom blamed the weather. When she got fired from her second job, it was the manager's fault for not appreciating her spirit. Meanwhile, I was working double shifts, passing every class, fixing busted pipes in the laundry room, and got silence. I remember this one night real clear. I was 20, home from community college for the weekend. I had made dinner for everyone, did the dishes, cleaned the floors, because that was just what I did. Mindy came in halfway through the meal, dropped her purse on the table like it was made of diamonds, and announced she got a new tattoo. A big, ugly thing on her forearm that looked like a melted phoenix. Mom gasped, stood up, walked over, and hugged her. She actually cried. "I am so proud of you for expressing yourself," she said. I had to sit there, chewing my food like it was cardboard, listening to her go on about how brave Mindy was. Brave. For getting a cheap tattoo with rent money she did not have. I thought, I could save a puppy from a burning building, and she would ask why I got soot on the carpet. It started sinking in, slow but steady. Love in our house was not about character or effort. It was about spotlight. And I was not made for that spotlight. I was the crew backstage, keeping things running so the star could shine. Still, I held out hope. I told myself, "You're the rock. One day, she will realize that matters more." But then something happened that crushed whatever pieces of that hope I had left. Mom got sick for a while. Just a flu or something, nothing serious, but enough that the house fell apart without someone holding it together. I took time off work, cooked, got her medicine, checked her temperature, ran to the store at midnight for ginger ale. Mindy? She was posting selfies from some music festival 2 towns over. Did not call once. When Mom got better, she barely acknowledged what I did. Just said, "Thank God Mindy did not catch it. That girl cannot handle being sick." I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask, "Do you even see me?" But I already knew the answer. And still, I was not ready to give up. Not yet. Because what finally broke me was even smaller than all of that. It happened on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic, no screaming, no betrayal in the usual sense. Just a moment so quiet, so painfully ordinary that I almost missed it. I was 26. Living a couple towns over by then, working as a maintenance supervisor at an apartment complex. Not glamorous, but steady. I had saved enough to buy a used truck and was renting a decent one-bedroom. Life was simple, predictable, and for the most part, quiet. I still called Mom every week. Still showed up when she needed something. Still dropped by to fix the leaky faucet, mow the lawn, unclog the stupid gutters she somehow thought cleaned themselves. Mindy? She had moved back in. Again. This time after quitting another job and breaking up with another boyfriend. She always had a reason. Mom never needed one. That day, I had come over to help replace the porch light. I had already worked a 10-hour shift. My back was aching, and I was running on nothing but caffeine and leftover pizza. But she had called the night before, said it was urgent. So there I was, climbing up a rusted ladder, holding a new fixture in one hand and a screwdriver in my mouth. When I finished, I came inside to wash my hands. Mom and Mindy were on the couch, laughing at something on TV. I stood there for a second, half hoping someone might say, "Thank you." Or at least, "How was work?" But instead, I heard Mindy say, "I do not know what I would do without you, Mom. You are the only person who's always been there for me." And my mother, she reached over, kissed her on the forehead, and said, "You are my heart. You always have been." I stood in the doorway like I was watching someone else's life. Like I was the guest, or worse, the help. The screwdriver was still in my back pocket. I waited for her to say something to me. Anything. She didn't. So I walked into the kitchen, took the trash out on instinct, and left. No goodbye. No door slam. Just left. And you know what hit me the hardest? It was not what she said. It was the fact that I was not even surprised. That was the moment everything snapped into focus. All the years of doing, giving, fixing, proving. I was never going to be her heart. I was never going to be the one she chose. I was just the insurance. The backup plan. The one who kept the wheels turning so Mindy could drift wherever she pleased. And it took a half-dead porch light and one quiet Tuesday for me to finally admit it. I was done being useful just to be tolerated. The chase was over. After that Tuesday, something in me shut down. Not in a bitter, angry kind of way. More like a breaker switch flipped somewhere deep inside, quiet, final, clean. I stopped calling. Not out of revenge. Not to prove a point. I just stopped. For the first time in my life, I let a week pass without checking in. Then 2. Then a month. I figured, if I mattered, she would reach out. She did not. I still woke up thinking about her. Still caught myself driving toward her house out of habit. But I would turn around. Remind myself, no more tools in the trunk, no more Sunday grocery runs, no more being on standby. It felt weird at first. Like I had lost a job I had never officially signed up for. My hands itched to be busy. I would walk past the hardware aisle in the store and instinctively wonder if Mom needed new light bulbs or if that bathroom drawer still jammed. But then something strange started to happen. I had time. Time to read again. Time to fix things in my own apartment instead of someone else's. Time to breathe without feeling like I owed someone an explanation. I started sleeping better. I picked up extra hours at work, not because I needed the money, but because it felt good to choose something for myself. I even joined a gym. Nothing fancy, just a little place by the freeway with loud music and a broken vending machine. But it was mine. Then came Mindy's birthday. She posted pictures on social media, balloons, cake, the whole deal. My mother wrote this long, syrupy caption under it. My beautiful girl, my sunshine, my reason for everything. I stared at the post for a long time. Not angry. Just tired. That night, I opened the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out a photo I had not looked at in years. It was from when I was maybe 10, me holding up a spelling bee trophy, standing on the porch, grinning like a fool. Mom was in the background, arms crossed, mid-sentence, not even looking at me. And suddenly, I saw it for what it was. Not a family memory. A record. Proof that I had been reaching out for something she was never offering. The next morning, I blocked her number. Not out of hate, but because I finally understood something I should have seen years ago. She did not love me. Not really. She loved what I did, what I gave, what I made easier. And the thing about conditional love? Once you stop paying, the bill collectors stop calling. But I was not ready for what came next. It had been maybe 3 months of silence when the message came through. Not a phone call, not a visit, just a short, half-hearted text from my mother, like we had spoken yesterday. Hey, the washing machine stopped working. Do you have time this weekend? No greeting. No asking how I was. No mention of the silence. Just straight to the request, like nothing had changed. I stared at the screen for a while. Then I put the phone down and went back to eating my sandwich. That was a test. I knew it. She wanted to see if I would come running the moment she snapped her fingers. Old habits die hard. I didn't reply. 2 days later, another one came through. Longer this time. It has been hard without your help. Your sister is going through a lot right now. I just thought maybe you would care. That part got me. Not because it hurt, but because I recognized it. The guilt. The bait. The same emotional trap I had been walking into since I was old enough to carry groceries. I told myself I would not respond. And for another week, I didn't. But then Mindy reached out. She sent this breezy little message, something like, "Hope you're good. We all miss you. We all." As if I had been the one to walk away from a warm fire, not someone who spent years trying to keep it lit by myself. And then the twist came. A few days after that, I got a call from a number I did not recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. It was Mom's neighbor, Mr. Holloway. Said he saw an ambulance outside their place the night before. Something about a fall. Nothing serious, he thought. But he figured I should know. I sat there in the parking lot of the grocery store, staring through the windshield at nothing. And that was when the old wiring kicked in. I almost turned the key. Almost drove straight there without thinking. But I stopped myself because I realized something important. If she was really hurt, she would have called me herself. She didn't. And sure enough, a few hours later, Mindy posted a photo online. Mom on the couch, smiling with a blanket over her legs and a smoothie in hand. The caption read, "Taking care of our queen." They looked fine. And that was it. That was the moment the guilt stopped working. They were doing what they always did, building a little stage, casting their favorite roles, and acting like I was the one who walked off set. But this time, I was not part of the show. I was finally watching from the audience. And for once, the curtain call did not include me. Still, I thought I was done. I thought that was the end. But life has a way of circling back, especially when you stop playing the part they wrote for you. A month later, just as things in my world were starting to feel normal, really normal, like I could actually enjoy silence without waiting for it to break, she showed up. No warning. I had just gotten back from work, tossed my keys on the counter, cracked open a soda, and there it was, a knock on my front door. Not urgent, just soft and steady, like someone pretending not to be invasive. When I opened it, there she stood. My mother. Hair done. Purse tucked neatly under her arm. Like this was a social call, not the first time she had bothered to see where I lived in 3 years. "Hi," she said, as if the past 6 months of silence had never happened. I did not invite her in. I just leaned against the doorframe and waited. She glanced past me into the apartment. "Looks nice. I always knew you were neat." I nodded, slow. "What do you want?" That caught her off guard. Her mouth twitched like she was choosing between pride and purpose. "I wanted to see you," she said. "I miss you." I almost laughed, because I had heard her say that to Mindy 100 times. Every phone call, every visit, every argument that ended in hugs. But not once, in my entire life, had she ever said those words to me. Not when I left for college. Not when I moved out. Not when I stopped answering her texts. I said nothing. Just kept looking at her like she was a stranger trying to sell me something at the door. She sighed and finally went there. "I know I have not always been the best at showing how I feel," she said. "But I need you right now. The house is falling apart. Mindy is overwhelmed. And I cannot do it all alone." There it was. The real reason. She needed something. The apology, if you could call it that, was just the wrapping on a familiar ask. "I am not your handyman," I said calmly. "And Mindy is not my responsibility." Her eyes went cold fast. The warmth, the forced softness, all of it dropped like a mask slipping. "So this is how it is now? After everything I have done for you?" I let that sit for a beat. Then I said it. "What exactly did you do for me?" She blinked. Once. Twice. Like she did not have a script ready for that question. "I raised you," she said, almost indignant. I nodded. "Yeah, you did. And I spent 20 years trying to earn something you never actually gave." She flinched like I had hit her. But I was not angry. I was not yelling. I was just done. I told her I had to get back to my evening. And then I closed the door. Gently. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I finally realized she had never opened it for me. And behind that closed door, for the first time in my life, I felt something close to peace. But it would not last long. Not once the rest of the family got involved. The blowback came fast. First, it was Mindy. She called the next day, voice sharp, already halfway into a rant before I even said hello. "How could you talk to Mom like that?" I did not answer. "Do you know how hard she's trying?" Still quiet. Then came the real reason she called. "You need to fix this. She has been a wreck ever since she saw you." A wreck. The same woman who once told me to toughen up when I cried over my dog dying. The same woman who never flinched when I handed her my last $20 or when I spent Christmas Eve alone fixing her sink because Mindy had a rough week. I said, "I am not playing that game anymore." Mindy snapped. "You are just being selfish." That word, selfish. It always came out when I started asking for space. For fairness. For anything. I hung up. Later that week, I got a message from my uncle. One of those men who only reaches out for birthdays and bad news. He told me I was being ungrateful, that family comes first, and, my favorite line, "Your mother sacrificed a lot for you." I read the text 3 times, and all I could think about was this one memory from when I was 13. I had saved up $60 from mowing lawns to buy her a necklace for her birthday. It was not fancy, just this little silver pendant I thought she might like. She opened the box, looked at it, and said, "Oh, that's sweet, but I do not wear silver." That was the only thing she said. No hug, no smile, No, thank you. And when I think about sacrifice, I think about all the times I swallowed my feelings so she could stay comfortable. All the weekends I gave up. The holidays I spent alone. The money I handed over without being asked. But no one ever called that sacrifice. They called it being a good son. Turns out, good sons are only good as long as they stay quiet. Once you stop playing your part, they rewrite your role. Suddenly you are cold, distant, hard to love. But I was not any of those things. Not really. I was just done. Done being the backup plan. Done carrying guilt I did not earn. Done setting myself on fire to keep everyone else warm. The family could cast their vote, say what they wanted, spin their version of the story, but they did not get to write the ending. Because what came next? That was mine to decide. It took me a while to admit it, even to myself, but letting go of my mother hurt like hell. Not because she deserved my loyalty, but because some part of me still wished she did. That was the part one had to grieve. Not her, but the version of her I had spent my whole life chasing. The mother I imagined would one day say, "I see you. I love you, just for who you are." That mother never existed. And facing that truth, it felt like ripping up a blueprint I had followed since I was 5 years old. I started writing things down. Not for revenge, not for a tell-all, just for clarity. I wrote about the missed birthdays, the backhanded compliments, the way her praise always came with a receipt. I listed every time I dropped what I was doing to help, and how rarely anyone asked how I was doing in return. And when I was done, I burned the pages. Not out of anger, but to mark it, like a funeral. For the little boy who kept waiting at the door, hoping love would finally show up. I began rebuilding quietly. I focused on friendships, the real ones, where people called just to say hello, not to ask for favors. I picked up woodworking, started making small things. A bench, a shelf. It felt good to build something that stayed. Something solid. And then, one Sunday morning, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at it. Let it ring. Watched it go to voicemail. Then I hit play. It was her. Her voice was soft. Tired. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, if that means anything. I miss you. I really do. She paused. Then, Mindy's getting married. Thought you should know. That was it. No invite. No explanation. Just a breadcrumb. I deleted the message. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. For the first time, I did not feel pulled. I did not feel guilty. I just felt free. And that freedom was not loud. It did not come with fireworks. It came with silence. With peace. I did not go to the wedding. Instead, I spent that day at a park, watching the sun dip low behind a line of pine trees. There was a family nearby, 2 kids chasing a kite, their dad cheering them on, mom laughing from the blanket. I smiled. Not because I was sad, but because I knew I could choose different. One day, maybe I would have a family of my own. And when I did, I would love them without a ledger. No terms. No scales. Just love. The kind I spent my life trying to earn, but now understood could never be bought. And as the wind picked up and the kites soared higher, I finally knew. The chase was over. People always talk about letting go like it is some big, dramatic thing. Like it happens all at once, with one final speech or a slammed door. But that is not how it went for me. Letting go was quiet. It happened in tiny, unnoticed moments. Like the first time I deleted a message from her without reading it. Or the day I walked past the Mother's Day card aisle and did not feel the pull to buy one just to avoid guilt. Or when I stopped checking Mindy's social media to see if they posted anything about me. The world did not fall apart. Lightning did not strike. Nobody came knocking to beg me back. It was just still. And in that stillness, I started to grow. I painted my apartment. Finally replaced that squeaky bathroom door that had driven me nuts for a year. Took a trip alone to the coast. Just me, the sound of the ocean, and a motel that smelled vaguely like lemons and old coffee. One morning, I sat on the sand with a notebook I had brought and wrote a single sentence. I do not need to be loved to be worthy of love. I read it over and over. And then I cried. Not the ugly, angry kind, but the quiet kind. The kind that slips out when your body finally exhales after holding too much for too long. I used to think healing would mean some part of them changed. That one day they would wake up, see what they had done, and come running to fix it. But healing was never about them. It was about stepping off the treadmill I had been on since childhood. The one where I kept running toward love that moved every time I got close. And now, I am not running anymore. Do I still miss the idea of what we could have had? Yeah, sometimes. But that grief lives beside something stronger now, peace. Not the kind you have to fight for. The kind that just is, because you finally made space for it. So if you are still chasing someone's approval, if you are still hoping that being good enough will make them love you better, I hope you hear this. You can stop. You are not broken for wanting love. But you are not required to keep earning it where it was never freely given. Walk away if you need to. Close the door gently, if you can. And then breathe. Because I promise you, there is life after the chase. And for me, it is finally mine.